So I wanted to talk about the recent Italian femicide law, which makes it punishable by life to murder a woman because she is a woman. So I have read about it, but the articles usually don't mention if it also goes the other way around, if it is punishable by life to murder a man because he is a man. So have you heard about this news and how do you understand it?
This is the first time I'm hearing it. Like, wasn't it already punishable to that to just take life?
Uh,
That
yes,
that
but it's a
that
it's harsher punishment if you kill the woman because she is a woman, like a hate crime
Yeah, I
type
think
law.
that's unfair. They should have the same punishment for somebody being killed because they're a man. Why wouldn't they have that law?
Yes,
I
the
think
thing
that's
is that
unfair.
yes, people talk about this law, but I haven't seen much discussion about the unfairness of the law.
I mean, it's true that it's more common for somebody to be killed for being a woman, but there's no cost associated with adding the law, even if it's much less. There's no cost associated with adding that law for men as well. So you might as well just add that. So yeah, I think it's unfair. Hi Amir. Hi Samantha. I think there's a lot of laws that are unfair to men. I mean, there's a lot of laws that are unfair to women, but everybody knows about them and talks about them. But there's also a lot of laws that are unfair to men, and they get less talked about. Do you
Yeah, I
guys agree
think it.
with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's weird that we haven't seen a big discussion about this because it was one day news that they made the law, and there wasn't any big discussion about how unfair it is.
What law?
Yeah. Go ahead, Yamiel. Can you explain to
Uh,
Samantha what the law is?
the Italian femicide law, which makes it punishable with life to murder a woman because she is a woman, which is harsher punishment than regular murder. And the law doesn't seem to apply the other way around if someone kills a man because he is a man.
Yeah. I think that's unfair to men. Does anybody
Mm.
disagree? All right. I see you. We don't have any audio.
I what I do wanna say though, because no, I agree that that law is unfair to men, but what I do wanna say though is, like, power dynamics matter, and, like, in general, because men are stronger than women in general, it's worse for a man to hit a woman than it is for a woman to hit a man.
Yeah, but the punishment.
But,
Yeah,
like,
but
yeah, killing someone is,
yeah,
different.
yeah, yeah. I see. Did you fix your mic? No. Okay. We don't have audio today from Messi.
And even if you argue that men are stronger, today we have poisons, we have guns, so a
Yeah.
woman can just shoot a man easily or poison
Yeah,
him.
so, like, that's different, like, if you're talking about like, that should be equal because yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, if I were to just go, like, hit a random guy, like, yes, it would be wrong, but, like, it wouldn't be the same thing as if, like, a guy were to hit me.
Yeah. By the way, there's something that I say that pisses a lot of people off. I say, like when it comes to Islam, for example, I say Islam, if you read the text, is more unfair, like it's anti-woman for sure, but it's also anti-man. And it's actually technically it's more anti-man than it's anti-woman, even though it is anti-woman, right? If you read the Quran. Because like if you look at the role of a woman in Islam, she's supposed to be uh, subservient to the man, follow his command, and she could be beaten, have sex with him whenever he wants, and she could be beaten up if she's not following the orders, right? So, which is pretty bad. The man
Christian,
has
can you hear me?
to, yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, fine. We have your idea now. The man has to go into battle and die for Islam or get injured by for Islam, right? So they're both bad based on gender. Like it's unfair to both of them. Being, but at the end of the day, the woman is getting slapped, and the man is going to get, you know, hit by a sword or a spear or die for the role of the man is even more dangerous
I don't
according to his.
understand the argument though.
I'm just saying that it is not traditionally, if you look at history, women had it bad because they had to follow the orders of men, and they didn't have control over their own, decision. They,
Yeah,
they didn't
yeah.
make
Well, men,
decisions.
but men
But
dying in war is a man interest. I mean, it's your interest to put the
no, no, no,
strongest
no,
guy on the front.
no. Men's. It's not in all men's interest. It's in few men's interest. So the people who were winning because of this arrangement throughout history were not men in general. It were a few men. It was like 1% of men. It wasn't all men.
If you want to win, I mean, so you put the strong guys in the front. But if you want to lose, so it's your problem.
Yeah, I mean, well, you could say the same thing about women. You could say like, well, if you want to win, you have to make sure you control women and make sure they have a lot of kids and they're like following orders.
No, if I
But
want to win in the battle, I mean,
yeah, but if you also want to win in battle, you have to make sure you have a lot of sons and you have a lot of that are being raised properly by their mother. So
also true.
yeah. So somebody raised their hand. Who was that?
Yeah, sorry, it was Oscar. Oscar.
Oscar, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I get what you say, Armin. Like, for example, like I would say that the way that men and women are kind of like asked to join on the struggle, or the jihad is like in a different way, right? Like, still, like women are kind of worth half of a man in a way, but they have like different roles, which put them, like you say, at different risks. Like, women aren't asked in the Quran necessarily to go and fight in the front lines of the battle, but they may are like, you know, obligated to like join in the battle in like a different way by raising the children, having as many kids as possible, or limiting themselves in other ways. But I mean, I don't know if that's what you're kind of like trying to get at. And
I think actually women are worth more. Men are given more rights to make them satisfied that they have at least control over women, right? But the fact that they are given women as their reward is because women are worth more than men. This is why it's okay for the men to die, but it's not okay for the women to die, right? This is why when you have slaves, you send the men to mine and or do the most dangerous jobs, because if they die, it's not that big of a loss. But if you have female slaves, you make sure none of them die because they're more valuable than the male slaves. The men are the men could go into war because the men dying is okay. I mean, they're stronger, sure, but they also are okay. It's okay to lose them. Like if you look at both men body and woman body as commodities to be traded, to be sold and used, the woman bodies, like you're trying to control, like it's the powerful men that are looking at female bodies and male bodies as tools, and every female is a more valuable commodity than a male body, and that's
yeah,
why it
like
needs to be
in
protected. Yeah,
yeah, like at the end, kind of like nobody's that valuable because everybody has to submit themselves to whatever Islam or whoever is like the leader representing Islam is at that time.
yeah,
But yeah, in the sense that like uh there are like different ways that each one has to submit, and like the path of the man, which is usually warfare and like these
yeah.
kinds of things. It's tougher in a different kind of sense, right? Like
It's in
I
a
mean, yeah,
worse sense. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
The physical toll on the men was more than women, working in working in the farms, working in mines, working and fighting in battle. I mean, you're like, well, they're stronger, yeah, and they're paying a heavy price for being stronger, right? Like, oh, well, but it makes sense because they have the stronger body, yeah, and it seems to be a curse. Okay, it seems to be a curse upon them because they're sent into places that they wouldn't send women for that, right? So, and like some feminists, for example, argue that, oh my God, throughout history, men had all the power. No, they didn't. Like, you're talking about like 1/10 of 1% of men. How is those specific few men all of a sudden just all men? No, men didn't
Right.
have power.
A lord is not a peasant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for every lord there was 1,000 peasants, right? So you're just grouping the peasants with the lords, and like men had power. Yeah, but so unfair to men, I think. I mean, actually, nature is like, I'm not actually saying that this is wrong, because it's actually natural for men to be worthless than women, for at least in mammals, right? Because even like, it's not just social, it's biological. Because for if you have um one woman and 1,000 men, right? So biologically, there's like, you only could produce as much as one woman, right? But if you have, you know uh, uh, so it's basically, a lot of those men are useless, right? So if you have 1,000 women, like, if you have, like, let me say, actually, if you have one woman and 1,000 women, so a lot of these men cannot actually reproduce, because only that woman can reproduce, right? But if you have one man and 1,000 women, if you have 1,000 men and 1,000 women, like, you could basically get rid of most of those men, and you're not actually losing much biologically. You could get rid of 999 men, and you will, for reproduction purposes, you will still be fine. So that's why the men are expendable and biological, and that's why men die earlier than women, because they're not needed as much as women. And that's why women's voices are softer, because you need to feel like they need to be protected, like they sound, you know I don't mean to, like, I hope nobody gets offended, but women are, sound more, something that you feel like, need, like, in a way, in the same way that a child's voice makes you feel like, oh my God, this is so cute, this is so nice, I want to protect it. A woman's voice is meant to biologically also, because uh, emotionally you have to feel that, oh, I need to protect this, right? Because it's valuable. So this is not just social. When we, when in a societal, in society, when we feel like, oh, women and children first, right? That's not just an invention of society, that's actually biological, that's innate. We are biologically feel like we need to protect women and children, because they're worth more than men.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's also sort of like, the cooing factor, just for like babies. Like a cat, when she chirps or like coos, and we see that just generally with like female sex, for the
Hmm.
children, so they feel connected. So in like a motherly sense. So just to add to
Yeah.
that, yeah, it's like a comfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that why
Yeah, if you
women
can
are
see
more
it
likely to
in
scream when they're startled?
Oh yeah, asking for
to
protection.
to
Yeah.
alarm, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think again it kind of falls into the protecting the young type of thing, that we kind of like bring that with us to any, you know, even like a dangerous situation. Like I think that's sort of just like embedded in us. It's like an alarm.
It's very interesting that none of you get offended by these things, because in other groups, when I say these things, people get so offended, but nobody here gets offended. Oh, yeah. Ahmed is saying congrats on 1,000 members. Guys, we were just 500 just like last time we met, and it's just doubled the group size. It's amazing how
That's
fast we're
so
growing here.
awesome. It
Yeah.
means, Armin, it means that like we have a voice that people are connecting to. That's what it seems like, that people are listening to our stuff and they're like, hey, this is nice. And then slowly we're getting more members coming in, and also talking
Yeah.
too. We got more people talking and showing cameras. It's really cool.
Yeah, and this is only on month 1. So imagine
Yeah.
where we're going to be in a year or 2 years from now. This group.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, guys, the floor is open. You guys could like
I
open
wanna
any.
I wanted to ask Yamiel about this law because it's really new to me. Like, but what exactly is the extent of this law? I mean, because there's a to me, and actually in my country, there's a difference. For example, between I got angry at you. Now let's say men and not men and women, just to simplify it. I got angry at you. I get up and I punched you, and by accident the punch kill you. Just one punch. There's a difference between this and hiding a pistol, waiting for you to come and ambush you. You will get the penalty is different. So my question is now with this law in your country, the is it second degree, third degree, first degree? How does it work? Yamir?
Yeah, Miel, did you hear the question?
Oh, maybe he's out for a little. Okay, never mind.
Sorry,
Oh,
I
here.
was away. I didn't
Uh,
hear.
I'll repeat then. I said that in my country there's a difference between first degree, second degree murder, and so on. I mean, not in this terminology. This is an American terminology, but yeah, it exists. And you introduced this new law of male versus female violence. So my question was, is the degree, second degree, first degree, and so on, is that valid or automatically something happened, even if it's by accident, and now off with his head? I mean, what?
Regarding the law in Italy, you mean?
Right, the new one that you shared about.
Yeah, so it applies when the woman is murdered because she is a woman. Because so if someone says, I hate women, or I hate women, so I'm going to kill my girlfriend or wife. So it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
regular
but a
murder.
lot of times it's not like that. A lot of time I get angry at somebody. Maybe I punch him one time too much or something like that. I mean, and sometimes it's not intentional. That's what I'm saying. It's
So,
violent, it's vile, but not intentional.
well, in that case, the law in Italy uses regular murder and not the femicide law.
No, but if I hit her
The-
because she's a woman,
Oh,
you understand the loop?
you hit her because of she's a woman, but you weren't intending to kill her. Would the law
Right.
apply?
And she died anyway,
I don't know. I haven't read the details.
because that can lead to some next
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
I
if it's
always
like
hate it when. Yeah, go on, Oscar.
I don't know if it's like you mean like for example in Mexico like some murders against females are categorized immediately as femicide because if you kill a woman, it's sometimes judged as if you kill her because she was what she was, but it's like assuming intent prior to the behavior. Like you could have been just pissed, or you could have been drunk, or you could have been you know for whatever reason. But in some cases, it is applied what is called femicide. So you're basically uh, killing someone because she's a woman, but it's kind of in some cases like assuming intent, right? Because unless the person says, "Oh, well, I'm doing this because you are X," it's really hard to prove intent based on that, right? So
Exactly. I mean, what happened if I'm going and I'm telling to the police investigator, the sooner they get me, I tell him, yeah, I beat her to injure her, not to kill. It was my bad.
yeah, no, not because she's a woman, yeah, because she got me pissed or something, right? Or like so yeah, the way that it's categorized in Mexico is femicide, and
What's the point of having laws, the punishment being different based on the intention rather than by the consequence? Like why? Like if, for example, hate crimes. Like um, if I kill somebody that happens to be black, the punishment is less than if I kill somebody because they were black. Like, do you think the punishment should be the same, given that basically the same act was it was the same act, or do you think it's actually makes sense for us to have hate crimes, and there should be more punishment if you kill somebody because they're a woman or because they're black or because they're Jew? The punishment should be
I
different,
think
harsher.
I think that like it's. I mean, the fact that you can't like really, you have to assume something. Like I don't know if I don't know if
Let's
I'm
say it
like
was
would be on
proven.
board.
No, no. Let's say like they have evidence, right? Like two scenario. Like you kill somebody because they're black, and it's obvious that that it was because they were black. Compared to the same scenario that you kill somebody that happens to be black, and it's obvious that you killed them for a different reason other than they're black. That right now in many countries the punishment for these are different. Do you think they should be different if you have evidence?
I think so. I think this should be
Why?
different. I mean, because there's just one reason actually, and maybe it's dear to me. Because if you want, and it's another question whether it's right to do it or not. But if you want to force society to be more patient, maybe it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, but wouldn't it apply to just murder as a whole rather than like crime as a whole rather than hate crime?
I
Like,
Yeah,
don't
as I
believe
said,
Jim. I think it's a bad idea overall. Hate crimes are just stock crimes. All crimes should be the same. Just want
all
to
crimes should be.
make yeah.
Yeah. So I heard an argument for why the punishment should be more, and the argument goes like this: a hate crime, like if is a crime not just against the person that you harmed, but against an entire group of people, because now they also feel targeted and threatened. So if I kill somebody because they're black, I didn't just have one victim. Now the black community or the Jewish community or whatever is going to feel like, oh my god, what the fuck? Like we feel the stress, the anxiety, the and also the encouragement to other people to maybe do the same. So because there's more consequences than just that victim, that's why the punishment should be higher. That's the argument.
I think it should be fluid actually, and I know it's weird, but I think it should be fluid because I mean you need to listen to what happens in the streets of your country. That's what I think. If now there's a problem of one minority that is suffering greatly, and you need to pass a law in order to help this community not to break apart and run to another country, I think that you should do it. I don't think that, for example, Jews needed help from the legislators in America in the 80s, and any law about anti-Semitism in the 80s probably would have been stupid and not really needed. But after what I saw in all the Ivy Leagues, maybe this thing needs to be fluid and fair. And fair, you can't hold to these laws if you are not no longer under a threat. Also, I think maybe I'll go. I'll fix my thoughts and I'll go back to you. I'm.
Hmm.
I don't know, because the thing
Interesting.
is, like, what's it called? The guy who committed that DC shooting and like the guy who what's it called? During the Run for Our Lives thing in Denver, set people on fire. These people,
Yeah.
like, they weren't trying to run away from the police. They were proud of what they did and weren't trying to like run from the police. They were owning up to it. And so when you have people like that, there's no consequence you could make really that would have prevented this and been like, oh, I don't want to risk this happening to me, so I'm not gonna, like, in some cases for some crimes, it's not, there's no level of punishment you can make that's gonna be enough to deter people. You just have to make it physically difficult to carry out the crime. Like, with the president of the US, there's no punishment you can make that the punishment alone is going to be enough to deter people from shooting the president of the US. You have to make it physically difficult to carry for an ordinary citizen to carry out the crime of shooting the president of the US.
Well, I don't know if you could say that because we only see the people who the punishment hasn't deterred, but all the people who the punishment has deterred are just not they're just not doing taking the action. You know what I mean?
I
So
guarantee you, and it doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican is president, if tomorrow the like there was no more Secret Service or they weren't going to like check guns in venues. It was just okay, you know, if you kill the president, if you try to shoot at the president of the U.S., you get, you know, death sentence, and that's like the punishment. But they're not gonna like, you know, have Secret Service or check you to make it physically difficult to get close to the president with a gun. I guarantee you, within about a day, someone's gonna try and kill the president because there's just
Okay, that's true. That's true. But I also guarantee it that if you have the Secret Service and the security, but you say if you make it through, there will be no punishment. Okay, like we have so much security, but if somehow you manage to pass the security and take out the president, then you're free to go. In that scenario, I bet you there's going to be more people attempting as well. So it
true.
goes
So
the other way
I guess
around.
it's like, you know, in some cases you need both, but like you do need
Yep.
that as a step to make it physically difficult to carry out the crime.
Right? Yeah, you need both. You need both.
Khalid?
Can you hear me?
بحكي بحكي يا أخي.
Okay. I was gonna say, yeah, the U.S. president is the most powerful president in human history. Is it different, or the Chinese? The only difference is if you're a president of Uganda, no one cares that much. Like you don't see Ugandan presidents getting assassinated. I'm saying there's like a level of differences. You can have if you can have no security if you run a mid-tier country or a low-tier country compared to like a high-tier country. That's what I'm saying. Just you can remove the security if you don't have have a high-tier country. That's it.
I don't
The
know.
more I think
Yeah,
about
go
it,
ahead.
it feels weirdly symbolic that we're being refused to wear like what's it called, a bulletproof vest, and then got shot. Because it's like it feels like really symbolic. Like this was someone who was just too trusting and just too naively trusting, and it got him killed.
Yeah. So I changed my mind about before.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you shouldn't separate it to two laws. I thought about it. You shouldn't separate it to two laws, but you should enforce the law when things like I described happen. You should enforce the law via. I'm sorry, it's my parrot. I'll go cover it in a second.
No, it's okay. That's okay. It's cute.
Make it say something.
I can't. She's evil. She's demonic. But anyway, so if you enforce the law and via terrorism acts, and you accept that the mass shooters, for example, are terrorists, and you accept that I don't know, throwing Molotov cocktails on Jews is terrorism, and those things need to be addressed as terrorism. And you can have now unity between all races because it doesn't matter who you shoot or throw a Molotov cocktail on in the street. I don't think that nobody wants that. And so you should call it terrorism, make it a harder punishment for sure, and enforce it this way, and do not do what I said before, which is treat it as a hate crime.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. Preserves equality, but it makes it up. It sees it for what it is, which is terrorism. That's the way to do it, not to give people preferential treatment because we're supposed
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
By the way, is your parrot?
Yeah, I know.
Can your parrot talk?
Say that again. What did Joe? Yeah, I do.
Talk. I see.
Say it again. I didn't catch you so good.
Yeah, your audio is bad.
Yes. That's my shit. That's my dog. Can your parrot talk?
No,
Not by command. She's a bitch. Only when I fall asleep or stuff like that.
Are you sure she's not possessed?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. They're just it's not mine. I got into this relationship and she was here, and I need to accept her as she is and not make chicken soup in the winter. Yeah.
Wow, very nice of you. With regards to these laws, I think these laws actually divide people. When you have laws for like, oh, this is hate. When they say hate crimes, or laws, if you do this to a woman, or if you do this to a black person, or if you do this to an Arab, or if you do this to like a Jew, just like it might seem like nice, might seem like kind, and you're protecting this group of people. What's the problem with that? But I think like the population feels like you're just dividing them. Instead of just having really harsh punishments for crimes, just treat everybody like the same, and subdividing people, by in racial or gender categories, because we're already getting divided, more and more divided as it is. So having different laws based on who the victim is just going to help the division. Khalid, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't work. I mean, take Jews for example. It doesn't work that way. If you just said let's treat everyone fair and equal, you're not gonna treat. The problem is that people will abuse that law to the point it's gonna hurt the Jews more. Like if you study history, a lot of these shit. There's sometimes laws that you think it were, oh, it makes sense, but at the end it will always go back to the Jews. Like you need these rules because hate crime rules, so that it's just to protect some minorities, not all minorities. I'm just saying some. That's it. Like this, like I understand you want a fair world, but we don't live in that world. That's that truth.
I wasn't suggesting a fair world. I was suggesting harsh laws against crimes. I'm not naive enough to think we live in a fair world. I was just saying that we need to have laws that treats everybody. People should be equal. In fact, asking for people being treated equally in front of the law assumes an unfair world. Or else, if the world wasn't fair, then you wouldn't require these laws. So what I said was an assumption with an assumption of unfairness. But yeah, somebody raised their hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was my
It
turn.
was me.
Okay, go on.
I haven't really thought it through. I'm not sure, but whatever laws you make, people will find ways around them if they want to be mean and criminal. They always figure them out. So what you're left with is at least make a law that seems fair to people, so that at least you don't create any jealousy or whatever between groups. So I think a law that says that if you want to have hate crimes, okay, but if someone is attacked on the basis of their religion or race, doesn't matter which race or religion. Because sometimes white Christians are attacked. They should be protected. If they're attacked because they're white Christian, I think that's the same. I don't see how that would hurt Jews in the end. If you just say, uh, if the crime is motivated by racial hate or ethnic hate, you could call it something special. It's a bit like you do with terrorism, where if it's motivated by political ideology, then it's not just a crime; it's a terrorism, right? That's the definition, Valo. I don't know if if you're still discussing Nick Fuentes, because I have a lot to say about him and his
Yeah.
stance.
Please do. No, please do.
Um,
Please do.
I think I mean it takes me. I haven't really gathered my thoughts about this. Should really write it down. But what you're seeing is I'm looking for ways to basically answer the people who are listening to his ideas. You're not going to convince him, and you're not going to convince the people who are really true believers. But what's happening at the moment is he's convincing more people because he knows how to do it. And he's using actually Marxist techniques. I mentioned this yesterday. So one of the old tricks of politics at all, doesn't matter what politics is, to point out the problems. You don't really offer solutions. but you just point out problems. It's very easy. I could go and tell you, oh, it's situation is with the trains. It's terrible. Everybody will agree. Yes, we need to improve the trains. Yeah, yeah. You're not saying what you're going to do better, but it's you can pick a topic, whatever it seems appropriate at the time, and that's a lot of politicians do that. What Nick is doing is the same as the CRT people, where they say, there's this white, what did they call it? Whiteness and
Right fragility. By the way, CRT
yeah,
is
all this,
basically for
yeah, all this,
critical race theory. Yeah, tell people
yes,
what it means.
yeah. It's the idea that there's the white people are oppressing all the other groups, and the reason that there's more crime in black neighborhoods is not the black people's fault. It's actually whites being racist to them, and therefore they are criminal because of that. But most people, black people, of course, not criminals, so it doesn't make sense. Because if why is it only certain people? It's a bit they apply this to Israel and Palestine, where if the Palestinians are raping Israelis, it's not their fault. It's because the Israelis have been mean to them, right? It's that same thing. And what Nick is doing is the same thing, but Jews are the oppressor, and him, the poor Christian, white Christian male, is the oppressed. And it's very easy to do. I mean, you see how effective it is with the Palestinians. You can take any group and you can make a nice story about how they're oppressed, and it's pretty easy. And you can take any group and make them the villain. I mean, if I wanted to make the Irish the villains, it would be very easy. They control so much of the banks in the world. And we can go on and on about the Irish mafia and how Catholics supported the IRA, which was a terrorist organization, while an ally, the UK, was fighting on behalf of America, and they're like contributing to money to terrorists who are killing English people and English civilians. And the Irish, of course, were very sad when Hitler died. We can go on about the Irish. We can pick a group. I just I have a special dislike of the Irish because of the way they treat us. But you could pick literally any group and say, I mean, the Spanish were terrible to the South Americans, right, to the natives, and you can do it with any group. It's very easy to do with Jews because we've always been a minority. So this is what he's doing. He's doing CRT. He's using Marxist techniques, neo-Marxist techniques of takeover of the institutions. So he got a lot of his followers to take in junior positions in government, to the point where some people say the White House staff is 30% Nick Fuentes. They would say positive things. I don't know if to call him fans, but they would say positive things about him or ideas that are similar to his. They will say stuff like, "Well, I don't agree with everything he says, but yeah." So this is the same method that he's using. And so one simple, that's why James Lindsay calls them woke right, because they're doing the same thing. They're using the same tactics. They cancel you. They've chased, what's his name? I'm not a fan of him, Andrew Wilson, but they really harassed him and his wife and his daughter and stuff. They're really horrible to him because he dared criticize, the Messiah Nick. And I'm no fan of Andrew either, so I'm just saying, Um, and I think that's one way to insult them is to say to them, you see, Nick is a CRT merchant. He just swapped whites with Jews. It's the same thing. And the other one is the one I keep mentioning before. America needs Israel. America is screwed without Israeli tech. All the mobile phones, all the laptops, it's all Israeli tech. They don't even know it. They think they don't believe it when they do a search and realize that I'm right. They really don't know that almost all the mobile phones and almost all laptops on earth are the brains of Israelis. They're Israeli creations. They're not American. He says, you know, ironically, the accountants in America, the people who count the money, but the innovation, a lot of it comes from Israel. and you can look it up.
But okay, Musa, I think there was somebody else wanted to speak. Let's
Yeah,
go ahead there as well.
yeah, it was me. I had 2 points. One point that I wanted to reinforce that Mossad said is that it with the some of his rhetorics does feel like an upside down woke thing, because most of his work of demonizing the Jewish people, like Mossad said, is about referring to a specific 1% that he based most of his bullshit around. Now, I know, for example, the Jews control the media. How do they control the media? Well, it's very easy, because the Jewish mafia, they had a lot of money to launder through Meir Lansky and people like that. And what happened is that they started investing money in Las Vegas and Hollywood in order to launder their money, all these Jews, and they stole all this money. And this is how they got to the politics, and this is how they got to everything, to the media and whatever, and so on and so on. The problem is that you are talking about a 1% of a 1%. It's less than a 1%, actually. You talk about a couple of Jews that took advantage of the system as a mafia. It happened with the Sicilian, it happened with the Irish, it happened with every race that was new in America. We had a short conversation about yesterday. So, so it's like it's exactly what they are doing. They talk about the 1% of men who are hyper successful and make so much money, and this is an example of a hyper successful mafioso that is connected to a certain point in time. We do not have a Jewish mafia anymore.
Just to say something, it's too much emphasis on mafioso. I mean, Gershwin was actually an amazing musician. Yasha Heifetz was an amazing musician. There was no mafia needed to make them stars. There were Jewish scientists that invented vaccine for polio, I believe, and the nuclear bombs, Los Alamos, and lots of other things. That's nothing connected to mafia. And Hollywood was created by people that couldn't get jobs in New York. New York was the center of the movie industry before Hollywood existed, and nobody would hire the Jews back then.
You know the problem with was anybody else wanted to
Oscar,
speak? You go
yeah,
ahead.
Oscar, if you
Yeah,
want to
Oscar.
jump in.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I would say that in the case of Nick Fuentes, I think he's like tapping into something that has been germinating maybe probably in the past decade, but something that is already there, and is the fact that the USA is a very Christian and conservative country. And my brother actually just recently converted to baptism, and came up to me and told me that he was a Christian nationalist. And I told him, I mean, do you know what any of those words mean? And he started showing me some of the pastors that he's been looking at, and some of the very like big anti-Jewish feeling, I think, is already latent in Christianity. I mean, Christianity supersedes, or Judaism, and I think that in a lot of like far right movements, like the religious ones in particular, I think they're already tapping into an already present sentiment in the religion, that is kind of leads to like conspiranoid thinking. And they also share this with the Nazis, and they also share this with the communists, which is this idea that there is a small group of people, a 1% or a small cabal sitting around at a table, pulling the strings of humanity, right? And all of these different perspectives intersect in this very conspiranoid way of viewing the world. And the archetype par excellence, throughout history of that, the that cabal in charge of the world are the Jews. And I think that kind of base was set by centuries of Christian thought around the Jews, and libels, and killing babies and using their blood for rituals and these kinds of things. And they get a modern twist. Sometimes I hear people speak of the Zionists, but they speak of the Zionists in the same way that they would speak of Jews maybe a couple of decades ago, controlling the media and controlling America and controlling, uh, a lot of things. And I think that, to tie America to Israel, I think that part of a large anti-Americanism around the world has an element of anti-Semitism, tying like America being controlled by the Jews for some reason, this kind of myth. But I think that that kind of conspiranoic kind of worldview of like small group of people controlling the world is a big thing that unifies all these views. And also, I think that Nick Fuentes is tapping into something that is already there in the U.S. And I also see a lot of the Gen Z speaking things that I'm like surprised to hear from young people. Like I go to a boxing gym and our martial arts gym, and some of the things that some young guys say about Jewish people sounds like straight up from Mein Kampf, straight up. I'm like so surprised to hear dudes
Can
like
you give an
18
example?
years old. Yeah, like the other day, uh, what was I saying? Like I was talking, we were in the gym, and they were saying that the Jews control the world because his friend is from Honduras, and he was saying that a president from Honduras just got freed, and that he noticed that he had like a Hebrew sign on the in one of the pictures of the president, and he said that it was likely because he was Jewish, and therefore he was freed because he had like homies like higher ups getting him out of jail. He also started saying that Jews killed Christian children. Oh, that the Bolsheviks are actually Jews, and that the
Yeah.
Jews were behind the killing of Christians in the Soviet Union.
And
And when I heard that, I was like, bro, this is like straight up like some protocols of the elders on Zion type shit. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what you guys think.
Thank you, though. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, there was a guy on a huge platform. I forget which stream it was or whatever. He was saying that Jews in America don't pay interest on loans.
How do you guys respond to all of this?
I mean, it's like how do you? It's just a barrage of shit. You just, I mean, how do you prove that you
I genuinely,
prove
because these
that?
are people that I see every day.
I mean, the banks
Um,
screwed every one of us, including Jews.
yeah, I mean, for me, like these are people that I see every day that like I train with sometimes, and like I don't want to like antagonize them in that sense, and then they want to like punch me super hard or something. So like I try to ask them like like where do you get this from, man? Like what have you been looking at on the internet, or like making it seem like okay, this is kind of like outside, you know, like okay, where do you get this from, bro? And then they start telling you that they saw like a video or that they saw this on social media, and I was like, but do you even know who the person is who's informing you of this? Like, do you even know their credentials, or do you even know? No, not really. I just saw it. I was like, so you're just gonna believe anything that somebody shows you on the internet? Like anybody can upload something. You know that, right? I'm like, okay, well, yeah. I was like, so what makes you think? Have you ever like, and in a friendly way, because these people are, people that I see almost every day. So, but it's kind of shocking to sometimes hear what they actually think of reality.
Okay. Let me go over the hand that was raised. We had
In the
in this
chat.
order.
Yeah, it's in the
Sorry.
chat. It's Armin, and then it's Khalid, and then it's me.
Yeah, that's right. Armin, Khalid, and yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah. I add 2 points. One is that the problem is that Nick Fuentes has like a huge mountain of like points that he makes that are actually right, and a lot of people are angry about, and then that's how you get them, and then he comes up with this whole anti-Jewish conspiracy, like like a lot of the stuff that he says about, I don't know, migration or the woke left. They're on point, and he explains that very well. And he explains it in a very entertaining way, right? Like, you sometimes you actually, I'm watching him because I want to see like how to, and sometimes I'm watching him like, oh my god, that's such a beautiful way to make that point, and he's like so good at it, right? And I'm actually finding myself entertained by the way he talks, right? I'm like, fuck, this man is dangerous because he attracts people like that, and then he comes with the whole anti-Jewish conspiracy where all of a sudden he sounds retarded and he actually doesn't have any evidence for it. I mean, even when he's right, uh, yeah. So that's the problem, and I think the solution to that is to for people to, especially Jewish Americans and other Jewish people, to keep saying the, the parts that is. I think we failed. When it comes to liberal people with classical liberal values. They didn't find a good way to address all the problems that people like Nick Fuentes are using as a way to demonstrate that they understand what the problem is. Because um, the, the, we actually we failed in providing a solution, because many people understood what the problem is, but because there was no solution offered, then I guess, saying the Jews are the problem and they're responsible for it. I mean, if you disagree with that, well, where the fuck is your solution? Nobody else is providing us with a solution, so we might as well go with this one. Maybe it will work, right? That's one thing. And another thing is that one thing we have to understand with the utility of beliefs is that a lot of people think that beliefs are meant to represent um, a good understanding of objective reality, and that's their purpose. That's what their purpose is. And this is when we see people who have beliefs who are ridiculous, and it's not based on evidence. We're surprised, like, where the fuck did you get that from? But I think if we understand that the utility of belief is something else, the utility of belief is an identity card and a membership card, more than a good explanation of reality. So people choose their beliefs based on the group that they find cool to be in, and the identity that they feel like is cool to have, right? it's kind of like it's kind of like trying out different clothes and see which one fits and which one feels good and which one makes them look cool and which one impresses other people. It's, people are like, where did you get that from? Why do you believe that? Like, well, they weren't trying to pick beliefs that is based on evidence. This group of people seem cool. This is interesting, and it seems like the people who are members of this group, are seen by other members of this group like they're welcoming us. There's a bond between these people. People want to be members of a tribe, and they feel important in that tribe. So if you look at beliefs as membership cards and identity cards, then a lot of beliefs will make sense, rather than trying to figure out, obviously this is nonsense, so why would anybody believe it? Like, if that's how you pick your beliefs, you have to understand that many people, that's not how many people pick their beliefs. Anyways, that.
This is
Okay.
my turn.
Khaled, yeah.
Yep, your turn.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, Oscar, for the Honduras guy, is he an evangelical? Is he, 'cause-
I actually haven't asked him. He's a young guy. He's like probably like 20. And some of his buddies as well that go there also have similar views, or like just assume, or they may not have like very strong views, but they just like it kind of like the status quo of their opinion is, yeah, obviously Jews control the world. Obviously, like obviously it's like
uh,
they don't have like too much pathos behind it, but it's just kind of like, like this is like known thing, you know.
okay, because if they were like, because your brother's a Baptist, and is all your is all his preachers all the same Baptist or different Baptists? Because the problem I find funny, because all of them hate each other, which is a
Oh
weird
yeah,
thing.
no, my family's mainly Catholic, and then my mom at some point married an evangelical, and it's a whole thing. But no, I don't actually know the particular pastor of his like church, but the one that he showed me was some like think it was like Lake Point Church, something in like Texas or something like that. And
Okay.
you know, Christian guys dressed in like military clothes, and looks like they're gonna go like duck hunting. You're like, okay, I better
Yeah,
listen
because
to some Christian nationalist thing, most likely. Um,
Christian nationalism is an oxymoron term. That's just I'm saying it. And also, I was wondering another thing is because if you see a tattoo of Hebrew, is because I see a lot of evangelicals get Hebrew tattoos because they try to have like both Greek and Hebrew letters because of like they're trying to connect to like Jesus because they I don't know, is it to like his
uh,
Jewishness as well as
I
his
think they
Greek thing?
realize that when they read the Bible, there's a lot of Jewish stuff. I even heard a Christian refer to me the other day that you know, hell as the Sheol or something like that. And I was like, isn't that like a term or some like a Hebrew term where like, you know, and he just, you know, but Christians have like a tense relationships, I guess, with Jews and Judaism.
Yeah, I'm just asking. That was my question. Go next. I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Duck
Point.
Dodgers.
Duck Dodgers. So I actually just wanted to kind of agree with Oscar's side because I brought this up like
Can you
before
do something about your microphone
that
because
Yeah,
it
you're
gets
cutting.
cut in the
I
middle?
was sort of
You you're
oh,
cutting in
can you
and
guys
out.
hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you
we
hear
can
me now?
hear you, but you were yes, but you were
Uh,
cutting in and out a little bit.
sorry. Yeah, I'm on my phone. Yeah, I was saying that I'm Israeli and I'm American, so I was raised in both worlds. And a lot of the craziness when it comes to just the Jewish tropes that Oscar was sort of talking about, I saw here in America with obviously non-Jewish people, and a lot of them don't really even know what an actual Jewish person is, whether they're Israeli, not Israeli, Jewish, not Jewish, but they have a lot of these stupid assumptions and notions that even I would be like, where did you even get this information from? Like, that I was saying how we were like, doing things between the sheets. People are finding like the stupidest things and like latching onto them from probably like centuries ago, or maybe only like a very small, minute minority of the Jewish people, or anybody really, if you think about it, as a group, in a group, would be doing something like that. But they take it and they assume like it's just like all the people. But it turns out that that's really where the weakness is, because you don't really know actual, like, you don't know the Jewish people as a whole. Maybe you met somebody for like a second or know like one person. But a lot of that's why I think a lot of this confusion after October 7th and this entire war is confusing everybody, because they don't understand the reality of like what we even are as a people. And it's really unfortunate, because I think that this is linked to just centuries of bashing us, making us gypsies. We're one of the oldest tribe that actually still exists to this day. I mean, if you think about it, there are a lot of tribes before us that unfortunately the people die. Easy to kind of continue that route with our people because we're still here, but you're still seeing this pattern of like really really old tactics and Jewish tropes of like eating children and baking, matzah with Christian blood and stuff like that, that are literally being brought back now in like 2025. And as a Jewish person, unfortunately, this is not surprising to me. This shit is not surprising to me at all, because I've seen that crap like my whole life here in America. It's more interesting like that my Israeli family are more like, "What are you talking about? Like, are you freaking kidding me?" And I'm like, "No. Like, do you see all of the protests and stuff? Like, everybody is going absolutely mentally ill, like all over the world. Like, you don't see what's going on, like 100%. Like, you should know. Like, it's pretty bad out here.
No,
It's
Israelis don't
safer in
know.
Israel." Yeah, I
Israelis
know.
don't
My
know.
brother's like, "What do you mean?" And I would have to explain to him. I'm like, "Seriously, it is so dangerous because of like what these tactics are, and that people are just so oblivious that they just don't know any better. They don't know any better until you actually start talking to them. Like, if I would say like, 'Hey, I'm a Jew,' where I am, automatically it's like, 'Oh, well, you don't have the covering and like the hat and like the black and I'm like, that's not like, I have freaking tattoos and I eat pork. Like what like we're not all the same thing. So it's just like copying and pasting on every Jewish person as like the same type of a thing. And it's just like so dangerous. Let me just think about wait, let me just think before I'm fully done here. I guess, no, really, long story short, is as a Jewish person, I'm definitely not surprised. I had a family that were Holocaust survivors. I have, Arabic, Mizrahi, Sephardic, Jewish background too. So I have like all worlds. But um, one of the things that was bred into me by force, a sick force, was from my mother's side, who didn't, in my opinion, do it very well. But we were constantly reminded of Holocaust. We were pushed horrifying movies, and she would do sculptures, and she was literally, it was like a sickness to her. Uh, her generation is a second generation. So you could imagine that she was born into a generation of everybody who were literally Holocaust survivors. So they were probably all like, I mean, they were alive, but damaged, damaged. Um, when the country was first founded, you know, Israel just started getting formed. So a lot of that was literally, but one of the things that I will take from it is I really can't trust. I can't really trust a lot, and I know what a pattern is. And I'm reminded that there's always going to be a pattern, whether it's 2025, 235, -4, whatever freaking year it's going to be, it's just going to continue. And it's because we're just an easy target. I would say this would continue in general for literally everything and anything, because that's just human nature. We're just kind of like stuck in the trenches. Anyway, that's my spiel.